Hey guys, it's Looch, and this week I am honored to be with a filmmaker whose passion was a garage band in the 60s called The Seeds. Neil Norman, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Now, you have a connection to the band that isn't just you are a fan, and tell us a little bit about the connection with your father.
Well, it's interesting. The Seeds made a demo of one of their hits, Can't Seem to Make You Mine, and they were turned down by Columbia, Elektra, and Capitol. And they came to my dad, who had the small label GNP Crescendo Records. But they brought it to him, and he said, I think I hear something. What do you think, Neil? And I was like 12, and I said, yeah, Dad, go for it. Mm-hmm. So it was real grungy, heavy rock, but very good songwriting, very good performing. So it took a little while for them to break, but they became the biggest band on the West Coast, and they had a lot of chart records, Mr. Farmer, Pushin' Too Hard. And I was around all that. I was there when they were mixing and recording all their albums, and I learned a lot about what to do and what not to do. So it's an interesting music business story, it's an interesting music story, and it's an interesting human story.
Well, I always wonder when you approach making a documentary about a band's story with the arc and everything, and yet it's equally important to establish how they started, what happened to them in the very beginning, middle, and end, and yet maybe some people would feel more compelled to know more about the Sky Saxon part of it, but it's well covered in all three kind of areas. The success, that middle weird ground where he maybe moved to Hawaii and had a few wives, as one does, and then, you know, the sort of, I guess, those younger musicians who at that point thought, well, Sky Saxon of the Seeds, you know, younger people coming to appreciate some of that garage rock music, saying, well, we'll put a band together for them and tour. Who were those musicians?
Well, there's a famous line that I have, which I've stolen from my dad. The other day I met someone that didn't play with Sky Saxon.
Okay, sure.
Well, everyone wanted to play with him. He was a legend. And Eddie Van Halen, the first guitar solo he ever learned was Pushin' Too Hard.
That's amazing.
When I was 13, every kid was trying to go, do, 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 do. That was a big deal then.
How easy or tough was it to convince Iggy to be one of the commentators about it, because he's perfection?
It was actually easy. I find that since we've both been there kind of, and I have the right credentials and I do good work just like he does, and I did a big fan. When I was in high school, I was watching him throw peanut butter into the audience, and he's a brilliant performer. And I couldn't believe how articulate and brilliant he was.
Oh, my Lord, yes. So when you were, you know, I guess, ruminating with the idea of making this documentary, who did you just know flat out, like, I know who I'm going to approach, who I know is going to have some really good stories and insights?
So I went after everyone, and I got turned down by a few biggies, and a few biggies said, well, I love the Seeds, but I'm too busy.
One thing, you know, at the end, and correct me if I'm wrong, they were in New York filming, right? There was some New York footage.
Yeah, they
on
did
the street.
Various tours. So many people were fans again. Every musician tried to put a band around them. And if they did real Seeds material, people wanted to book them. They were wary because they knew Sky was unreliable sometimes, even though he wasn't at the beginning. So they toured everywhere. They tried it, and then something would always goof up. And the money's tough, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard to make a net profit no matter what you're doing.
I also think one of the most amazing, one of the knacks that Sky had was that no matter where he was at on the economic level, he was dressing fine. I mean, he was a good dresser. There were times I was looking at the sort of older Sky thinking, my God, he's like a cross between Waylon and, you know, he just had this really distinctive, very put together look. So
yeah, he had a gift for fashion, and that was a big deal when he hit the scene. And he created his own things. At the Hollywood Bowl, he came out with a flowered shirt that was just really psychedelic for 1967, and he had an elegant white jacket, and he threw it into the audience. And even the Supremes fans gave him a standing ovation.
Well, the film is having these sort of one-off showings at really cool theaters all across the country, and yours is going to be showing tomorrow night at the Trilon. And I really think this is once the word gets out that there's this great documentary made clearly from someone who was there at the beginning and has the passion for it, it's a very small theater, not a lot of seats. So definitely we'll have the information on our website about where you can see the film, where it is, and the time. And best of luck.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And again, we'll have the info on the website.